Yeah, Liam, nice to see you. Thanks as always for your time. Let's start with squad news, really. Saw Lusum Hovo actually doing a bit of pre-match running Saturday. Is he now coming into your thoughts for the match day squad for these next two games?
Yeah, definitely in contention for Wednesday. So, yeah, feel free to grab it. No, he definitely will be. To be fair, he's built up some training load now, and he's in a much better place. He's trained really well. Been really impressed with him. So he's going to be an important one going forward, definitely.
Is it one still, because you said your ideal scenario, and of course it's moved on since then in that area of the pitch, would be to get him some 21 minutes. So would you have to ease him back in if it was a first team environment rather than you could throw him in from the start of the game?
Yeah, I think when you look at how long he's been out for, I think he'd be a little bit reckless just to throw him straight in to start. I think without kind of building it up with no game exposure. So I think it's one of those. He's working extremely hard. He's training extremely well. Been really impressed with him, and like I said, he's someone that, yeah, there's an ideal way of integrating him, and there's obviously another way where you can do it safely, but a little bit quicker as well.
Just Kenny, no issues there coming out of that game.
Nope.
In terms of the back. Yeah.
No.
Last year, obviously after the game, appreciate you probably didn't have a full overview, but any more clarity maybe with Gabe in terms of what that looks like now moving forward, his process?
Still going to be a little bit of time, unfortunately. Just had a minor thing, nothing major, but I think it's one of those we have to see how he now responds to that. It was just it just wasn't settling after doing some work. So went in, specialist had a look at it, and then it's one of those now where, yeah, naturally it would just be a case of it's just a minor setback.
In terms of Duffy, I mean, you said a few weeks ago he had a bit of a calf issue. Is he over that now still? Is he available?
No, he's not training at the moment, so he's one that, yeah, still looking at building up and trying to reintegrate, and again, similar, just keeps having minor bits flare up, but yeah, he's not a million miles away.
And just because you took him off there early part of the second half, Jovan, and kind of intimated, clearly for the step up that he's had to go from the level he was, and maybe he's emptied the tank there, and it's putting a lot on him in terms of the physicality required to play and start games at this level. But is he one that, even though he's still adapting, he could go again sort of midweek?
Well, I think we have to develop a robustness where the lads are able to. I think we can't, especially with the heavy period's not even got going yet. So I know it becomes really important when that starts that we're able to to roll people out and not have to make changes physically. So it's one of those. The lads been in to do recovery today. We've got eyes around them. We've had a training group as well. So we'll have a meeting at the end of the day to see how all the lads presented, how they got through the work, what they feel like, and then obviously we'll then make a decision on what the team looks like for Wednesday.
In that process, any issues that we're not aware of, maybe coming out of the Stoke game, the lads who are on duty there that you monitor?
No, nothing new to flag.
I don't necessarily want to dwell on Stoke really, but again, as always, after the game, you're very open, very candid, very honest in terms of how you see it and where you're at with this group. And you said, you still feel it's miles away from what it needs to look like. So did you and your coaching staff maybe at this stage of the process feel you might have been a little bit further along?
Yeah, I think it's different with every group you work with in terms of having an expectation. I think especially when the volume of change we've had, which you have to go through different experiences to grow, to develop trust, to understand what you look like. We've had to suffer a bit, I think, performance-wise recently, but I think for any team that's successful, that does well, being able to suffer and stick together will definitely help you going forward. I think the biggest bit is performance-wise, how do we control the games, and that's where we're not where we want to be, and I think that's naturally as I spoke previously, I think some of the games earlier on, when I think back to Middlesbrough at the first half against Blackburn especially, where you look at Middlesbrough, really good control, kind of what you want it to look like, but you then don't get the validation by scoring when you're on top and making the most of it. And naturally I think off the back of that, then whether it be a little bit of confidence, whatever it might be, I think it's been a good one for us to go, right, what are we, who are we, what do we want to look like, and make sure that we step on the pitch and do that every single time. And that's the big thing that we're looking for Wednesday, is that performance, that bravery, everybody stepping up, taking responsibility, everybody being positive, everybody wanting to have real impact. And I think we've done it with in previous games with how we've run, how we've defended the box, but I don't want us to be a team that sits off and defends for large periods. I think it's one of those where looking at Wednesday, we've got to be brave. We've got to go and take the game with the ball and be aggressive about it and keep them behaviours, but just show a bit more quality.
And drilling into that aspect, as you say, I mean, you've made the 5 changes, one enforced with Papa's injury, and out of possession, that resolve was evident again. How you had to defend, particularly in the start of the second half, but as you rightly said, it didn't really alter the flow of what you've tried to do and as you say, in terms of controlling the game. Just interested. I mean, does it get to a point where you just have to maybe, as much as it's those elements and mindset and behaviours and being proactive, but you also have to look at maybe the structure and are you getting enough bodies in certain areas of the pitch? Is that something you have to look at?
Yeah, I think there's an element. We analyse everything we do. We probably overanalyse everything we do, and I think when you look at it, a lot of it for me was around the bravery to play forward and take responsibility with the ball. And then there are bits naturally, as I've said before, the lads are human. The lads don't want to make mistakes. It's creating that mindset and that positivity to go, look, let's go and do us. Let's go and be brave. Let's go and take the ball. Let's look to play forward. When I watched it back, there was plenty of options too, and I think it is that. It's having that mindset of, not fearing anything. I think, stepping up and showing the best version of you. And I think that for me is the biggest thing that we have to affect at the start.
And that all came together in the goal you scored. I mean, the way you moved the ball there and those options, you had, Stacey overlapping then and you had bodies in the box. When you see that, when you see how effective that is, you've talked often that you see that, maybe that in the training area here and translating it. How do you translate it so it isn't one or two incidents per game and it's that bigger body of control and penetration?
Yeah, for me it starts with the head, it starts with your mind. I think, I know as you've referenced, we've spoken about it, the bits I see in training, the bits we've shown in flashes in games, I know it's in there, it's just how do we now consistently do that? And I think that's probably when it comes back to when you have a tough performance, you can sometimes overthink things rather than actually fall back on what we're about. And again, I think it's very much that it's relishing the challenge. I think that's the biggest bit. It's embracing it and stepping up and owning that aspect, and I think that's the biggest bit for me. As a collective that we've got to do if we want to transfer the good stuff into training. The only difference going from training to a game is pressure, is atmosphere, is the unknown of the opposition. They're the bits where for me we should relish that. We should to get a second the game starts, just leave it all out there, have no regrets.
In terms of that process you're trying to achieve of being better at taking the ball, better at controlling games off the back of that. We know you liked him because you started him earlier in the season, Jacob Wright. He's come out of the side, obviously, with a suspension. But is it coming back round to that aspect? Because that is his profile, that he can get on the ball, he can control the game with the tempo and his passing. Are you now looking at him again and maybe thinking we maybe need to reintegrate him into your midfield?
I think we need everybody with the same mindset. I don't think it can just be on one person. I think we have to have everybody desperate to want the ball. And then for me, want the ball and help each other, support each other, trust each other, connect and solve the problem, together. And Jacob's trained really, really well. I think, when you look at it, I think we've got real good competition. I've been pleased with Pella, how he's performed in recent games as well. Obviously, Kenny's back as well. So there's really good competition in there. And again, I think it's what we need. And that for me, we need people firing and need people stepping up. And, I'm sure, Jacob will play, someone that, for me, I've seen real quality in him, and I think he's going to be an important player for us.
In terms of that competition in the midfield areas, I just want to, because we know with Anis Ben Slimani there was possibly a situation if there'd been interest that maybe appealed to all parties, he could have moved on. But he's in the building. You've said more so towards the back end of the window, the players who were maybe in the here and now not part of it, but if they're still here, we'll treat them with respect. If they do what they need to do day in, day out, then they still come under consideration. Does he fall into that category?
Yeah, he's actually one that comes to mind now that we've forgotten to speak about. He unfortunately picked up an injury, Anis, and he was very much there. The window shut. It was almost his level in training had really jumped. I think just having clarity on the situation and less grey around it. I'd seen a real spike in him to the point where I'd pulled him and had a chat and said, "Keep doing what you're doing. You're really close to being in contention for being in the squad." And then unfortunately picked up a quad injury and is going to be out for some considerable time. So. Yeah, disappointing, but one that previously obviously we didn't speak about.
Yeah, so when we say quad, is that are we down the Jallow route of surgery and months out?
He's going to be a few months, unfortunately.
Yeah, has he had to have surgery now? Again, the fact it's a quad injury as well. It is. I'm sure you're aware that there's been this thought process around the club in terms of how you're managing injuries and so on. I mean, is that any part of this? Is that the forensic trying to get to the bottom of why seemingly, unless you tell me different, there's a lot of these muscular injuries that you're picking up?
Yeah, it's something, and we've had some real tough conversations recently about it. I know it was something that was an issue last year, something that there was some tweaks made in the summer that haven't had the impact that's needed. So something that we're drilling into now because ultimately it's I want to be able to pick from everybody that's in the squad and signed on. So we've definitely picked up too many. But again, I think it's time to action stuff. I think we can't keep picking up injuries and having to manage that situation. So for me, it's one that there's a lot going on at the minute where we need to look at.
Okay, fair enough. Just slightly going back to, because I asked you pre-Wrexham, in this process that you're in now, and it has its challenges, and you talked again after the game on Saturday, there's maybe a bit of short-term pain that you have to navigate as a club. And you said you could lean into some of the experiences in your previous sort of coaching posts, but given the expectancy, given the expectation that comes around this club, does it feel like maybe your biggest challenge at the minute?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the pressure, the challenge, the expectation, there's none greater than what I put on myself, to be honest. I think it is, like I've said from day one, how desperate I am to do well. And then it's understanding how do we do that. I think having expectations fine, but you also have to have a reality of where you're at. And again, I think like I said, I was conscious I didn't want to come out and make loads of excuses after Wrexham for why and own that we weren't good enough. And I think that the biggest bit, I'm quite clear on where we're at in our journey and what we need to do. It's not gone as quick as I'd like it to, but again, I think it's one of those where we mustn't lose the positive energy around it. I get the frustration, none more so than from myself. But again, I think like I said, when you see the flashes, when you see bits, is how do we now make sure that we deliver consistent performances, and that's the bit that we have to be better at, and that's the bit that we have to own. That's the bit that that we should embrace, that we should step up. That ultimately at the minute, with how we've performed a little bit, it brings us tighter together. I think that's what tough moments do, and that's where you find out about people. I think in terms of who's all in, who's going to be the one that you can trust, that you can rely on, that's going to give absolutely everything, and then. For me, it's then chipping away at. We know what we have to get better at, and it's now going to implement it on Wednesday.
And as you say, Wednesday, the next challenge, and Carrow Road, I mean, we don't need to ask you, you've said you're desperate to get that first Carrow Road win in the league for that fan base. Is it clearly, I mean, and again, it's implicit in what you've said today, that you and the players, you have to give those fans who will turn up Wednesday night something to get behind, something they can see on the pitch, something sustained, like you say, Middlesbrough first half that nobody could dispute. You were in control of that game and you were pinning them back, and the crowd responded to that. That's where you've got to be this week, midweek, isn't it, against West Brom?
Definitely, and we have to earn that. I think it's very much about earning credit, right? And we haven't got enough credit in the bank at the minute. So again, I'm quite clear on that. That has to be the starting point on Wednesday. We have to give the fans something to get behind, and there's numerous ways of doing that. There's the behaviour stuff. There's being brave, taking the ball. There's playing with purpose. There's showing some exciting moments, and we have to do all of that. And that's the biggest bit. We have to make sure that we turn up ready to go Wednesday. Just
get your thoughts on West Brom. I'm sure you've obviously now looked at a few of their games. A bit like yourself, new coach has gone in there in the summer and is trying to maybe impart what he's all about. I mean, what have you made of them so far? Yeah,
another tough side. They've obviously had a little bit of change as well. I think personnel as well as obviously Ryan going in. So again, I think they're hard to beat. I think they're extremely well organised. They play some good stuff, and as I watched so many games throughout the week, the margins are so fine, the margins are so tight. I think, like I said, the season's not going yet. I think we're craving probably the games and the experiences and how we handle pressure and how we grow as a group. And again, I think another one of those is on Wednesday, where we know it'll be tight, we know it'll be a difficult game, we know they'll be well organised with good players. We have to then make sure that we step up, be the best versions of us, and go and take the game to them.
And you see, it's noticeable for me anyway. You look at the starting 11 against Leicester the other night. I mean, there's a lot of seasoned Championship operators in there. Maybe a parallel there with Wrexham that as you said there, that you're not going to get anything easy against a group of players who know what it's all about at this level.
Definitely, and that's the challenge, right? I think that's the bit in terms of understanding. What does the league look like, the intensity of it, and there's that where again I think we'll do our work. We'll be quite clear on how they'll set up, what they'll look to do. We'll do that, but ultimately the second the whistle starts, it's on us. Taking responsibility to solve problems, us, coming together to help each other out during the game, and that's the biggest bit. I think every time you step on the pitch, that you relish that challenge of solving the problem what's in front of you.
And just final one from me. We'll have plenty of time to get into what's beyond West Brom in terms of the derby and that. But with West Brom here now Wednesday night, and then that to look forward to at the back end of the week, I'm sure you will be the messaging with this group of players. Is it? There's 2 performances there, 2 results, and that can almost turbocharge what you're trying to do.
Definitely, and that. Hence, I said I think when you go Saturday, sometimes the performance can feel like a long time from one game to the next, and that's where I think getting into the thick, quick run of games, you can turn things so quickly, and you see it every season, right? 1 week, you can have massive swings in the feeling around the place, and that's the bit that we have to do. We have to stay quite, for me, consistent. We have to stay positive. We have to stay, real, honest, in, the good times as well as the challenging times, and we have to own everything that we do. And that's why, for me, it's, I'm looking forward to the week. Really looking forward to the week.
Cheers, Liam. Good luck Wednesday.
Thank you.
Cheers.